All right, it's this year's Christmas episode, so we're going to get to the sad talk, and I'll be playing some sad music here in a second. We talk a lot about grief on this podcast. We started the tradition 2 years ago, Christmas 2019. I had just gotten on the other side of a mental health crisis, had benefited greatly from a therapist, and so brought a local therapist on to talk about grief, especially in the context of the holidays. And then last year, my friend Liz Miller came on to talk about the first few Christmases without her husband, who she lost tragically in a car wreck. And so we're going to get to sad Christmas episode number 3. But before we get all sad, I want to get some word out there, man. The Sing team just released an album. You'll hear it play throughout this episode. It's called The Last Christmas on Earth. It is actually a wonderful album. It's not too often I hear a new Christmas album and it becomes a habit to listen to, and I'm listening to this one a bunch. One of the hosts on this show, Ellen Morrow, her husband plays drums. There's a guest appearance from John Mark McMillan also. Want to welcome you patrons. I am excited about some new ones. We got Christian Arcuri, Aaron, David Loinzik, Joey Ruh. These guys have access to an episode that I just recorded yesterday. It's Speaking in Tongues Part 2. Chip Judd didn't take kindly to Ellen and Jack making fun of Speaking in Tongues a while back, and so I got those 3 together to continue the conversation on Speaking in Tongues. That won't be released until next year, but you patrons have it now. Us patrons, we also helped a little girl named Tahia. Tahia had severe malaria and seizures, and we were able to help meet her medical needs and basically save her life. I mean, my gosh, do you love that? I mean, I love it. I love it. I love it. I also wanted to let you guys know that there's some countries that listen to this podcast, and I know nothing about them. Like, if you're living in that country, does that make you feel bad? It shouldn't. It should make you feel badass. Like, imagine everybody being from a country, someone says, what country you're from? And you get to say, you've probably never heard of it, but I live in. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Now, if you're really good in geography, please don't make fun of me, because I really know nothing about these countries. Nothing about Qatar, St. Lucia, Djibouti, I know I'm saying these wrong, and Estonia. You all, thanks for listening. Sorry I don't know where your country is, but I'm sure it is awesome. Oh man, crazy, crazy, crazy. I hope you're enjoying that country that I know nothing about at all. Merry Christmas, guys, all of you. Thanks for listening, and thank you for just taking a second to mourn with those who mourn as you listen to this episode of Ryan Bessinger and just a tragic thing that she experienced on Christmas freaking Day.
A child is born. Oh, for unto us a child is born.
Zuzu's pedals. Zuzu. There they are! Bert! What do you know about that? Merry Christmas!
Show me how the piggies eat. Be a good boy. Show mommy how the piggies eat.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
So I'm here now. I found you, Daddy. And guess what? I love you. I love you. I love you.
Who sent this Christmas gram?
What's a Christmas gram? I want one.
He's a little cranky. We just broke out of prison a few days ago.
Shut up, Marv! Jeez! Get him out of here.
All right, let's go. Remember, if this makes the papers, we're no longer the wet bandits. We're the sticky bandits.
Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about.
So I've always loved Christmas. I mean, what's not to like? My dad's, and he was a civil engineer, so we were always solidly middle class. My parents were good with their money and very generous with their kids or to their kids during the holidays. And so were my grandparents. So my brother and I, we were spoiled for sure during the holidays. I also love my family, love spending time with them. There was no school, great food, new stuff. I mean, my parents even did things like, my brother was talking about this over Thanksgiving. My parents would have one choice for, like, during the holidays, I get to pick one restaurant of my choice to go out to eat to, and then one restaurant to do takeout. And that's just fun. Like, my brother got to do the same thing, picked out 2 restaurants. We did all kinds of neat stuff like that. And so it wasn't until way later in my life, way later than many of you, when I came across grieving, and it was mixed with the holidays. So basically my grandpa had passed away in August of 93. So Christmas of 93, on Christmas Eve, my grandma spent the night with us. It was too hard for her to be by herself without her husband. So we needed to take her to her house to pick up some odds and ends before going with some other family. We pull up into the yard, and I look over at my mama, and she's got tears just streaming down her eyes. And it just hit me as a 16-year-old. I was like, good gosh, yeah, she's pulling up into the yard that she shared 40 years of, had tons of Christmases with, and her husband is not there anymore. I remember walking into the cozy living room of my other grandparents for the first Christmas without my grandfather, and the emotions there. But still, these are all grandparents. Yeah, so 2012, my friend Josh Miller was killed in a car wreck. I'll have all these shows in the show notes, but Liz actually comes on here and tells that story of losing her husband early on in this podcast. And then last year she shares about grieving during the holidays. Man, those Christmases, my heart was so heavy and so burdened for my friend who was going through the holidays without her husband. And we were like really close to this family around their kids. So it was super tough. The very following year, my wife gets a phone call. It's basically a Sunday night, December the 15th, I think it was. And her father was being rushed to the emergency room. 3 days later, he's dead with cancer. He had basically been fighting cancer, or shall I say not fighting cancer, for a long time, did not tell his family. So basically went to the hospital to die. And I'll never forget that Christmas Eve. We're still mourning for our friend Liz. We're freaking mourning because my wife just lost her dad. And then on that particular Christmas Eve, I remember my daughter upstairs throwing up. There was like a stomach bug. My father-in-law was gone. I remember my sweet girl's voice saying, "Mommy, will you pray for me?" While she was throwing up. It was crazy. I'll never forget that. So Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year. Yeah, unless it's the worst time of the year for you. And it's crazy. It's like, as we put up the Christmas tree, the house is magical. I mean, I think if I was deeply grieving, there'd be no way I would want that. Those trees would like scream at me. This is supposed to be happy. Everyone is happy. While everyone is happy, you hear these songs and it reminds you of happy. It sparks that thing in your soul that you had your whole life that makes you happy. Toys, no school, family time, like all these good feelings, but without your loved one. And then all these feelings, the Christmas feelings, it's like they sadistically turn on you, I bet. I mean, and you never fully reconcile ever again with those feelings in the same way. But I've never been there, to be quite honest with you, and I'm thankful for that. So here's some sad stuff. Grief is savage, man. There's no respect for people, no consideration for timing, and it just makes you feel so alone. When did this happen? Like, was it Christmas Day night?
Yeah, it was Christmas Day. It was early morning. So it is like...
Oh, so it was Christmas
Day. So I found out Christmas morning. Like I woke up on Christmas morning to the cops at my door.
So my family to yours, we may not know each other, but we are remembering you right now. And we pray that you would find hope in deeper ways than you ever have. May the one true God continue to show love, grace, and compassion to all creation. I promise you'll see God has this. Like, we crave this God every day, even if not consciously. We were made to need this personal love, and God has promised that nothing will separate us from it. So you're going to be okay. You listening right now, you're going to be okay. And me too. So in times like this, we get to revert back to our childlike faith, that kind of faith that can accept stuff like God's kingdom. We can accept it with delight and not fear or shame. So may our attention always be brought back to resurrection, including the resurrection of all things. But for now, the resurrection of living life again with your mom. And after this year, I say to Ryan and Karen Bessinger, it'll be one less Christmas not having one another in each other's arms. So cheers and Merry Christmas to you two and to the rest of the world. Here's Ryan Bessinger.
At like 5 a.m. So that was like my Christmas Day of 2015. So that changed Christmas for me forever.
Forever. So you're married, right, at the time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2015, you were married. Was that y'all's second, third Christmas together?
We'd been married for like a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So
what a crazy thing to go through.
I know.
Like brand new married couple.
Yeah. We were brand new married. We were like, I mean, people call it the honeymoon phase, but we were still like adjusting to marriage. And so it was, and Gianti, my husband. And that we'd been friends for a really long time. So he knew my mom really well as well. So it wasn't like,
can we just say it? He was a youth leader too.
We always are like, we will never be able to tell our children this story because we'll be like, this is not recommended.
He was a lot younger of a youth leader than I was. He looked up to me as a father figure.
Oh my gosh.
No, probably
sure,
big brother.
No, it's funny because when I first met him, I thought he was a lot younger than he was.
Yeah.
And people think that he's like closer to my age.
Yeah.
He's only 8 years older than me, but back then that was weird.
Well, it's nothing now, but
nothing
it's
now.
like when you're in high school. I could see that. So I don't know what it is about these sorts of things. I think it's just human nature, and at the same time, I want to honor it's your story, but like I almost want to know a visual. So, I mean, walk me through. Is there the doorbell ringing? Is there a knock and you open the door? I would doubt that your first thought is mom.
No, yeah, for sure.
Like, what in the world are you thinking?
Yeah, this is so weird to talk about because so many people in my world today don't even know my mom. Like, they never knew my mom. So a lot of people don't know what I've been through. A lot of people just see that I'm like a bubbly person and they're like, oh, whatever, you must have a great life.
I heard she lost her mom a long time ago.
Yeah,
sort of
right. Yeah. I mean, it's coming up on 6 years, which is so weird to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely that was not the first thing that went through my mind. I mean, I hadn't really, we had lost my great grandmother 4 months before, almost to the day, August 26th. So my grandmother had been caring for her mother for, I think like 10 years, maybe longer. So we had lost her, had that funeral. And then I just never thought, that was hard, but she was in her 90s.
Right.
We had never experienced major tragedy in our lives before that. Like I had had a pretty good life. I mean, other than, you know, going through some rough stuff after college and all of that. But other than that, like nothing like, you know, major.
Yeah.
So I got, you know, I went to sleep and woke up to banging on my door. And I mean, it was like banging on my door. I remember that. And then I just remember, you know, opening my eyes and seeing blue lights in my window. And so we were living like in a townhouse at the time. So I tried to throw on my house robe. I was like, where's my house robe?
Right.
And like running downstairs. And there was, my grandfather was actually at the door, but the cops were all there. And I could tell something was wrong because he had tears in his eyes and he just looked at me. And I remember he said something like, Ryan, something really bad has happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think.
Right.
I was like, what? What do you mean? What are you doing here? Like,
right. If
know?
you're a mom, your mind goes to something specific, like, but you're thinking like, what? You know?
I'm just like, I mean, I think you never think something bad's going to happen to you. You think that your world is perfectly safe until something like that happens to you. And that's not to scare anybody, but that's just to say, like, our lives.
Remember, though, when you go to bed on Christmas Eve.
I mean, that's like literally, and I know we'll probably talk more about this, but that's every time I say bye to somebody that I love. Like, I'm very like, I love you, you know? Like, I want to make sure that the last words that I say are you know, loving, because you just never know.
Right.
But it's a reminder to me now that our lives are very finite and that time is never guaranteed.
Right.
And, you know, we can talk more about that, but I'll finish the story because I'm like the queen of rabbit trails. And my ADHD is just like,
well, I do want to mention what you just said is so true. Like I literally think that you walk around this earth seeing it in a way that I don't. Like, obviously, I've lost a close peer. Mm-hmm. I've lost grandparents. But not only to have not lost a parent, but to have really not lost a parent or a child or a spouse in that fashion. Mm-hmm. You know, for you to go to bed one night having something very precious to you and then wake up in the morning and it's gone. Like, absolutely gone. Like, you have to see the world differently. There's just no way you can't.
Yeah,
you know?
It's true. It's weird, you know? And, so I remember, you know, because I'm the oldest in my family as far as the kids go. And so a lot fell on me. I remember, to go back to the story, my grandfather pulled me inside and the deputy coroner actually was the one who told me. She sat me down on my couch and she was like, I need you to sit down. I'm like sitting there looking her direction, which the Christmas tree is right behind her head. And she says to me, Ryan, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but your mom was in a car accident and she didn't make it. And like, it was just very straightforward. Yeah. She was very, very kind. Like, I remember, you know, thinking like, this is not her fault, but she has to tell me this. Right. But I just looked at her and the first thing I said was no.
Right.
To answer your question earlier about like, would you have ever thought it was your mom? No. Right. Like, I literally was like, no, not my mom. Like, my mom is my mom. Like, I don't know how else to say that, but
that's not someone
you think your parents are invincible, you know, you're like, nothing will ever happen to my parents. And so I'm like, no, that's not true. Right. And she was like, no, I'm so sorry. And I remember kind of trying to process it and then breaking down. And I remember saying like, the first thing I asked her actually was, did she suffer? Yeah. And she said, no, she didn't.
Yeah.
But, after that, oddly enough, my first reaction was to kind of go into just being strong.
Right.
Because my younger brother didn't know yet. And he lived actually a street down from me. And so he was preparing to come over. Like my grandfather told him, come over, you know, get dressed, come to Ryan's house. Gosh. And that, I will say, is the one thing that moment of him finding out is probably the one thing that if I look back on, it makes me very emotional because I love my brother so much. And in that moment, I kind of felt like it wasn't his mom, but I just felt like all of a sudden I had assumed that role of like big sister to the max, you know, where I just watched him being told and the breakdown and the, you know, obviously he would have to tell his story, but just the wailing and the sounds that came from somebody who is in a place of such deep pain was haunting. Yeah. And I felt it all. Right. And so it was just like, that was hard to see. And I'm so proud of him. He is super, super strong. He's doing really great today. But you know, in that moment, like I remember after telling everybody, like sitting down, and the first thing I wanted to do was, I told Janty, I was like, babe, go grab my Bible. And like, I remember it had been a while since I'd opened it, but I knew that I needed to go back to that. And I don't remember what I read. I don't remember what I prayed, but I remember sitting down like Indian style on the floor with my family and just like praying. Yeah. And at some point the cops left and everything, but I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. And I knew that's what my mom would do, because my mom was a very, you know, very strong believer. Right. So, but I just remember thinking, like, why would this happen to her? Right. You know, she was the sweetest person, like just so friendly, so kind, loved the Lord so much. Every single day would sit down with her cup of coffee. Do not talk to her before her cup of coffee. Right. She would pray a hedge of protection over her family.
I love those hedges, boy. Keep those hedges trim, baby.
She was so cute. And but also like super sweet. You know, I found books in her living room that literally she had note cards with Ryan is, Drew is, and she had written down all of these things that she prophesied over us every day. I found like books like The Power of Praying Mother or whatever. And so I just felt her, like you could just feel her love so deeply, you know?
And at your early adult age, wouldn't you consider yourself early on in adulthood?
Yeah, I was like 25.
Yeah, y'all were really close, right?
Oh yeah. We were really close. We had like a lot of differences as I mean, you know, so the reason I got into my career of photography is because at the time I was kind of like doing random jobs, and my mom would always be like, Ryan, you're made for more. You should go after your dreams. And I was like, Mom, I need to make money. Don't talk to me. You know, and we would get into all these arguments, but like we were at the core like super, super close. Yeah. We would sit down on the floor, and one of my last like memories I have with her was we would sit down on the floor and just like have a beer together and, you know, talk about our days or talk about Christmas presents that we were getting for people and stuff. So yeah, we were really close. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to throw some Christianese at you, and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, I will.
And some of our non-Christianese folks, you have to get the book Christianese for Dummies. But how does it get redeemed? Like Christmas, every single morning you wake up, that's been another year since you lost your mom on Christmas Day. Like those two things are connected forever.
Yeah, I know that sucks.
Like is it less of a sting as time goes on? Or I mean, I just can't.
Not really. I mean, well, it's weird. I don't think time heals. I just think that it's hard to describe. It's like, no, it will never change for me. I will always feel that at Christmas, but I feel like.
Did you like Christmas before?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Do you still like Christmas?
I was like Team Christmas. Right. My mom was like Team Christmas. I want to. Right. It's sad. It's almost like I'm grieving my mom, but I'm also grieving this like beautiful, wonderful, fun thing, the best time of the year. Like some people love Halloween and they're like, all Halloween. I'm like, no, I don't care about Halloween. I was like Team Christmas. I love Christmas. Give me all the Christmas lights. Give me all the ornaments. Give me all the like, you know, whatever. And now it's like, I want to love Christmas again, but I don't know. Right. I want to. Yeah. I think, how does Christmas get redeemed? I mean, I think for me, it's just, you know, I was really angry about it for a long time. And I was like, I guess I still am a little bit like, why would you let this happen on this day? Right. I would tell God, like,
were you still super mad at first?
Oh yeah. I mean,
because I mean, it almost seems like, I mean, obviously our minds cannot even wrap around God, but it's almost like, look, if you wanted to take my mom, that's one thing. could you have not done this in April?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
September?
A different day.
Like Christmas
Yeah.
freaking day?
I know. Yeah. I would tell him, I'd be like, God, this is really cruel.
Right.
Why'd you do this? Like,
Right.
that was really cruel of you to take that away
Right.
from me. Take my best friend away from me.
Yeah.
Not only my best friend, my spiritual guide, my confidant, the person that I looked up to the most on my favorite day of the year,
Right.
on her favorite day of the year. And then you took that away from not only me, but like my family.
Right.
But I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. I don't think I ever will, but
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm okay with not knowing that answer.
Right.
I think that I know that there is a purpose for it.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it
Yeah.
is. I think
I mean, I would guess that at this point, from my human perspective, I would say, as long as we're here on this earth, the death of your mother is never going to be fully redeemed.
Yeah,
But maybe
that
there's
makes
some
sense.
parts of Christmas that you'll be able to enjoy another time. you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very true. I don't think that I'll ever understand
Yeah.
why things happened the way they did or when they did. I think that for me, I just kind of go, well, I mean, God, this is going to sound so basic and it's going to sound like I'm spiritual bypassing, but I will tell you that the conclusion that I've come to with this has not just come very easily to me. This has been an experience of a lot of pain
Right.
and a lot of anger and a lot of hurt, but I really have come to the place of like, I wouldn't say I'm never going to arrive, I guess, but I feel like I've come to the place of just being like, I know that there's a reason why things happen the way they did, and I
Right.
trust God. At the same time, I think I'm still learning to trust God again. Yeah, because it does suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you know, it's a crazy thing about humans too, because I would do the same thing. Like if I lost one of my parents, like you lost, that would be the center of my world. That would be what I think about all the time. Before that happened, it was happening to millions of
so
people's
many other
mom.
people.
But
Yeah.
then it's like it happens to you, and that's when we're like, God, what's
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
Like, what's up?
Yeah.
We got to talk about this sort of thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's the pain of this world is just overwhelming.
It really
sometimes.
is.
Like
And
I just sometimes start thinking about it. I'm like,
I
you
know.
know what? My little brain, I don't think can handle this.
No, it can't. And I think that's the point. I actually had a friend who her mom died earlier that year.
Yeah.
And I remember it hit me really hard because I knew her mom and I knew her and I don't know, for some reason I felt really empathetic towards it. And I know now that was like a preparation for
Right.
me. But yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, I think that I don't think we can all understand it. I remember one thing she said to me was, God doesn't let our brains like process everything at once because we literally couldn't handle it.
Right.
Like our brains were not made to be able to process things all at once.
Yeah.
But I think somehow I don't understand it all. It seems cruel, but I think somehow the experience that I've had and the experience that other people have, like there is a divine purpose, but there's also like a purpose for all, I guess, helping others, that have gone through the same thing. I think that somehow it, in a strange way, brings us all together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that, what I've gone through does help me to empathize more with other people. Whereas like you said before, I couldn't have done that.
Right.
So at the same time, sometimes I'm like, God, that seems really cruel. Like, why would you do it that way though?
Right.
But I think that's so involved. Like, we have to think about the way that we're wired and the way that, like, I don't know, we tend to be really selfish and we think about ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
And until we're kind of at a place of our lowest of lows, we can't really, we can't get to that place.
Yeah. So having lost, you said, your best friend, your mom, is there anything, I mean, obviously it's kind of one of the tougher questions, but it's what we always want to know is, like, do you have any major regrets? And I'll tie that in. Help me out, your friend Joey Svensson, who hasn't lost either one of their parents. But when your mom was in the stands, I mean, my parents are out of the dugout. I mean, they're out of the dugout. They're swinging their back. So they're a lot closer. But, like, what would you say? Like, Joey, seriously, like, enjoy I mean, I don't know what it feels like not to have one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what it feels like.
Well, it's weird because, like I said, that same friend who lost her mom earlier that year. So I have I had an experience with my mom a couple months before, after my great grandmother died, and this is going to sound really weird, but she would walk every day along this like path on 61.
Yeah.
And you can stop into the graveyard, and a lot of my family is buried there. And we were walking around, oddly enough, like I had plans that day, and I stopped and I canceled my plans and I spent time with her. We walked around the graveyard and she's showing me, this is where so-and-so is buried. This is where so-and-so is buried. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I remember at one point we stopped and I looked at her and I said, Mom, I could never imagine losing you.
Yeah.
And
gosh.
Yeah, I just felt that so strongly in my heart, kind of like, I feel like anybody that hasn't lost their parents could feel that. Like, I don't even want to go there in my mind. Like, I can't even imagine. And she was like, you'll be fine.
Right.
This is going to sound so bad, but she goes, just put me in the ground. Don't worry about anything.
Don't even worry about it.
She was like, don't spend a lot of money. Just, a total mom thing to say.
Your mom's the same one. Like, if you make a mess with some crumbs, don't even worry about it. I'll get that when you leave. Like, she's that kind of mom. Like, I got it.
Well, my mom was a little OCD with cleaning, so she probably would have grabbed the broom right then.
Yeah.
But yes, exactly. She was just like, don't worry about it. Like, don't go to any trouble. Just put me in the ground, whatever. And the reason she said that at the end of that conversation, she said, it's not even me anyways.
Yeah.
She's like, I know where I'll be.
Yeah.
And so anyways, all that to say, to answer your question, looking back, I never thought that would be her, but it ended up being her. And I think for people now, I would say, first of all, don't live in fear that your parents are going to die, because they are going to die. We're all going to die one day. And that's a hard thing to say, but we are. I mean, this life is so finite.
Right.
But I would say, like, just enjoy life with them.
Yeah.
That's really hard. It's also hard to give advice to somebody who has a family, like has parents living, because I can say, go hug your loved ones tight. And it doesn't mean so much to you as when you lose them.
That's true.
But
you're talking from an angle that we don't have access to.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
I don't want you to do it out of fear. Like, just genuinely just live your life.
Right.
Like, just love them.
Yeah.
Because
it really does boil down to, I don't know what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just coming from an angle that I don't have access to. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think at the same time, it's a seed planted, right?
Yeah.
Like, people might be like, okay, I'll go love my parents.
Right.
And then one day, like, when somebody's parent dies, like, maybe that will resonate with them. And I don't know. I think there's so many things in life that we don't understand until we go through it.
Yeah.
But there's like some comfort maybe in the advice that we've been given before.
We haven't talked about faith in a while, just 'cause we haven't seen each other in a while. So I know some things have changed in there, but without getting into all of that, do you still have what you and I grew up with, hope of seeing your mom again? Like, is
I
that
do,
good.
Yeah. You don't want to go into a deep theological discussion?
Yeah. Not now. Not now. This is about you and your mom.
It's okay. I don't know all the answers anyways. No, yeah, totally. I feel like, for sure, I feel like I don't understand everything about what happens after you die, but I do. I know my mom is. I feel like the veil between heaven and earth is so thin.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really do. And I don't even know if we would have time to talk about all the things that happen. But if you lose somebody that you love, you will realize, like, you will experience a lot of really weird things right after it happens.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you about that. So give us a couple examples.
Oh gosh. Okay. So, all right. So my great grandmother, going back to that funeral 4 months before, it was a little smaller, and we had a graveside funeral, and my mom, we had like a time for like open speeches. So my mom got up and she spoke and she said, I just feel like Nana's death is a seed planted in the ground, and it's going to bear much fruit, but it's going to get harder before we see that in our family.
Yeah.
We had no idea 4 months later she would be gone. But at my mom's funeral, we decided to do the same thing, where we had like the graveside service and everything. And I remember, and actually, I think Priscilla was one of the only people. She actually took pictures. I believe it was Priscilla. A lot of that day was a blur
If she
for
was
me.
there, she took pictures. I'll tell you that.
She did. She sent me pictures later, and I will say that was so freaking memorable or like meaningful to me to have that memory, because you know when it's a funeral, you don't really want to be sitting there taking pictures, but like I loved seeing those because we had so many people that came to my mom's funeral. Like it was a major turnout to the point where that was like that was so encouraging for me. So at my mom's funeral, we had like the same kind of thing where you could get up and speak again. Yeah. And my cousin got up and spoke, and he was probably, oh gosh, I don't know. Sorry, Connor. He was young at the time. Yeah. He was probably a teenager still. And so he got up and spoke and said, so I lost this like cross necklace years ago when I was a kid. We have moved houses several times. You know, we lost it like 3 houses ago. And he was like, I'm wearing it today because when I woke up this morning, it was sitting on my dresser the morning of her funeral.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was probably one of the crazier ones.
Jeez.
The other one is, and again, like pretty much from the time she died into year on, a lot of it's a blur. I don't remember that first year, a lot of what happened. But one of the other things that I remember, and it might not have been the perfect retelling of it, but the gist of it was New Year's Day, we are all hanging out as a family. And my uncle goes, yeah, so like my mom was giving blood the other day, and the lady that was taking her blood was just talking to her. She's like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
How were your holidays? Yeah. How was Christmas? Did you have a good Christmas? And she was like, not really. Yeah. And that's always hard too. Like when people are like, do you have a good Christmas? It's like, no, not really. No, it sucked.
Right.
And she goes, oh no, what happened? She's like, well, one of our family members died.
Right. And
she explained what happened. And she was like, she hit a tree on 61, and the girl literally like fell to her knees. Like, this is the girl taking blood.
Yeah.
She fell to her knees and was like crying. And my family member was like, what's going on? Are you okay?
Right.
You know? And she was like, you don't understand. Like, I drive down that way every single day to go to and from work. And she was like, the other night I was driving and I passed by, I mean, there's like a ton of trees on that road, but she's like, I'm going around this corner, which is where she passed away, by the way.
Yeah.
She's like, I saw this bright light coming like right at me. It was on a tree, and it was like these glowing, I think she said it was angel wings. And she was like, I literally have not told anybody because I thought nobody would believe me, but it was the same tree.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she was like, so she was like, I thought everybody thought I was would think I was crazy, but I think that we were supposed
once
to talk.
she heard that, she's like, I got to say something now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There were a lot of things like that, and just things that were like not able to be explained.
Yeah. Do you have, in your weak moments, because you're such a sweet person, do you ever see people hanging out with their parents and you're like,
No, I don't hate anybody. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't. The other, I wanted to mention the other thing that is a struggle is, my Gianti and I, my husband and I, have been trying to have kids for a long time.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to have kids. So I would say that the hard thing is not only not having a mom, but also not being able to be a mom.
Gotcha.
That I think that's a really hard struggle because I see my friends having kids,
right,
and that's super hard, and then I see people with their parents, and I'm like, that's really hard too.
Right.
It feels kind of like sometimes you don't know where you belong. You don't know where you fit in.
Yeah.
And I think, no, I don't, that's not a hard thing for me. I think that I obviously envy them,
right,
but I'm happy for people that have that. I think it's more so harder when I see parents that are like always complaining about their kids, honestly, because I'm like, oh, I get that. Like, I get the struggle. I really do. I mean, but I just, I think that it is, life is so short, and these seasons are so short. And one day you'll look back and be like, man, how long have we known each other? Has it been like 20 years? Like you and I? So, I mean, I think it's definitely, I think that's the struggle is I don't hate anybody. I just feel like I wish that I had that again.
Yeah. I tell people my favorite thing to do is play with my kids. My second favorite thing to do, this is when they're all young, is put them all to bed. So.
Well, I also
Too tough.
I get that because I babysit my goddaughter, and she's a handful, and so yes, I totally get that.
So did you have anybody say stuff like, "Oh, well, God just needed an angel," more that, or like any of those
Probably on
cringy
Facebook.
things? Yeah,
Honestly, I don't know about to my face like that specific saying, but I do feel like I've seen that so much on Facebook. I don't know why.
Yeah, isn't it weird when you become an adult, you realize, wait a second, me and the rest of the adults aren't that smart.
Yeah.
I thought we were all smart, but then you
know.
become an adult, you're like, oh, we're not that smart.
I agree. I'm like, why do we teach our kids like to be kind and stuff? But
Right.
then y'all are like the biggest jerks ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it's so with that, yeah, I've had some people say some things to me that have been a little insensitive, but they've said it meaning in a
Right.
meaning well kind of
Right.
way. And I kind of just look at that as like, you know what? I try to look at their heart and say, I know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're trying to make me feel better, and they just don't understand that doesn't make me feel better.
Right.
But I try to look at it for what it is. I just probably wouldn't let somebody like that like speak into my life a ton.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
about that specific topic.
Yeah.
But you know, on that same topic, like I don't know. It goes back to like trusting God. Like I don't know how much we control and
Right.
how much we don't control.
Right.
So I don't believe that God needed an angel.
Right. Right.
But
what
I
a
don't-
lame God if he's like, I'm going to take
I
take
need
her
her.
mom.
I think
I just need an extra angel. And I can't find anyone else.
Heaven's really big. It's not full yet.
Golly.
Yeah, no. I just think that people mean well, but they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say things too because they don't know what to say.
Right.
And honestly, like even for me nowadays, when I have a friend that has something like that happen to them, I'm constantly like, I don't have the right words, and it's because I feel so empathetic to it that I'm like, I can't even speak into your situation because I don't know what you're going through. And people
Right.
be like, probably are thinking like, yes, you do. And I'm like, no, I really don't. Because
Right.
everybody feels things differently. Everybody's loss is different. Like
Right.
I went to a grief share class afterwards and I realized I was one of the only ones who had lost somebody like suddenly.
Yeah.
Most people had lost their,
Yeah.
loved ones to cancer or something, which is just as hard,
Right.
just different.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
I hate using the word pros and cons, but that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to see your family suffer like someone in cancer, but then you didn't get to say anything to your mom knowing she was leaving this earth.
honestly, sometimes I after thinking about that a lot, this is going to sound weird, but I'm kind of glad that
Yeah.
I didn't have to see my mom suffer. So, but oh my gosh, at the same time, that did not make the experience
Right,
any easier,
right.
you
Oh, yeah.
know? But yeah.
Yeah. So I would, if I were in your shoes, I'd be rocking Blue Christmas every Christmas, like at a certain time.
Well, I just got a record player. Maybe I need to go
There
get that
you go.
record.
There you go. So if you got to spend an evening with your mom in Charleston during the holidays, what would you want to do?
Oh, I would just want to sit there with her.
Yeah.
I think when I was thinking about our talk today, I was just thinking like, what is one thing that I just really miss? And I think something I really, really miss is honestly, and this kind of ties back into what would I say to somebody, I just really enjoy the mundane moments.
Yeah.
I do. Like I really miss just the most mundane things.
Yeah.
The everyday life things,
Yeah.
you know, like don't take those for granted because those are the things you'll look back on and you'll really miss. Like I'll go somewhere and I'll be like, man, I really think my mom would have liked this restaurant. Or I'll see something at a store and be like, dang, I wish I could buy that for her.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I should. I don't know. But I think that's something I really miss.
Yeah.
So when you asked me to come on this podcast, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm super excited because I don't get to talk about this with people a lot of times. And I feel like it's really healing
Right.
to be able to actually talk about it. And also it's just really nice to talk about my mom.
Right.
Like a lot of people didn't know her and she was just the best person.
Yeah.
She was just, I mean, you knew her. She was
Yeah.
really sweet.
Yeah.
And, but I also felt like maybe I'm not the right person. You know, I'm not qualified because I'm still on this journey of
Yeah.
healing. And I honestly don't even know what that means.
Right.
Because I don't, you know, with grief, I feel like you never quite, there's no handbook for it.
Yeah.
You're just going through it, you
Yeah.
know, and everybody experiences it differently.
Yeah. Well, I can assure you, if I'm qualified to talk on this podcast, you sure as hell are qualified. No, but honestly, like the point of this, of these sorts of episodes is your story. And if you're still in the middle of processing, that is part of the takeaway.
Yeah. And I think I would love to talk to more people who are going through it, because I feel like especially somebody who's been going through, 30 years out, I would love to hear their perspective, because I would venture to say they might even say, you're always kind of going through it. Like
Right.
you don't really, you heal, but you don't, you're always walking through it, but you never get over it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm always going to have Christmas,
Right.
and I'm always going to have this reminder on Christmas. And it's just always going to look different for me.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess I would say in that, like, at the same time though, like, I think it's made me appreciate that the imperfections in life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you can't control what happens in life. You just kind of have to live it and just love your loved ones well. And
Right.
yeah.
There's like a false sense of security that
Yeah.
we live in that yours was exposed. Mine hasn't been exposed like that. So yeah, I think that you probably see things more precious because you not only know how vulnerable things are in your life, but you've lived it. So that's like a completely different ballgame.
And it's still like, I'm still a human being, so I still struggle with like
Right.
running around. Like right now I'm in a crazy season of life, so I'm just like trying to survive.
Right.
But then I'm occasionally reminded, like, what if something happened tomorrow to my husband? What if my health were taken away from me tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because it can happen.
Right.
There's no guarantees in life.
Right.
There are no guarantees. And I'm like, would I have regrets?
Right.
Would I don't know. I'm constantly reminded I need to stop and I need to kind of breathe in this season.
Yeah.
Like life doesn't start one day. It's happening now,
Right.
The mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, the everlasting Father. The mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, the everlasting Father. For unto us a child is born. Oh, for unto us a child is born.